do this again. Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Listen, I got Caroline Levitt here on a real short one, and she's just coming to talk about a couple of items, take some questions out, from the reporters, and we'll see where it goes. This is like a 12, 13-minute thing. Me adding my little 2 cents might make it a little longer. But I think it's kind of interesting that we get to the seditious, allegedly seditious congresspeople, and then, of course, the dismissal of the Comey and Letitia James cases without prejudice. So it's not over yet. But let me just let her go ahead and say, and then we'll talk about it once we get up and running. All right. So, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Well, let's go ahead and let her talk so I can stop talking. Let me share this. Mm-hmm. All right.
Caroline.
Is the White House supportive of the...
I'll answer that in a question, but go ahead.
Supportive of the Pentagon's investigation into Mark Kelly, and what do you make of his response that it's just intimidation?
The White House is supportive of the Department of War's investigation into Senator Mark Kelly, and I think what Senator Mark Kelly was actually trying to do was intimidate the 1.3 million active duty service members who are currently serving in our United States Armed Forces with that video that he and his Democrat colleagues put out. Senator Mark Kelly well knows the rules of the military and the respect that one must have for the chain of command, and that all lawful orders are presumed to be legal by our service members. You can't have a functioning military if there's disorder and chaos within the ranks, and that's what these Democrat members were encouraging. It's very clear, and not a single one of them, since they've been pressed by the media, and I'll give you guys credit for that, can point to a single illegal order that this administration has given down, because it does not exist. They knew what they were doing in this video, and Senator Mark Kelly and all of them should be held accountable for that.
Well, before they go on, listen, at some point, as American citizens, we need to know who our enemies are. And when I worked for the Department of Defense back in the day, and we all take an oath of office to protect the United States from all enemies, both foreign and domestic. It's clear. They don't just say foreign. Matter of fact, the worst enemies we have are the enemies from within, because they can do the most damage. Let me also say, listen, if you got to put your bullshit aside, if we're up against the Chinese, if we're up against North Korea, if we're up against Russia, none of these guys, they probably will eliminate any of their soldiers who sow any kind of seeds of dissent. They don't have no rights. So we're going to have all our young soldiers trying to analyze every order from the president, whether it's legal or not, before they act. Can you imagine the seeds of discontent and combobulation and chaos will go on if our soldiers are questioning orders in the middle of a goddamn battle? These fucking congressmen need to go to jail. They need to go to jail. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Nobody should be putting doubt into our soldiers like that. It's really, really unprecedentedly, uncalled for, and it's seditious at best, and treasonous at worst. And if you look up sedition, the very first thing in sedition is if you sow seeds against the federal government of lawful orders. These guys it's incredible the length that they would go to try to destroy a man they hate. You're hurting Trump, to tell you the truth. It's hurting the United States because he's the president. He's the president. Whether you like his policies or not, he's a goddamn fucking president. And you can't show the world, and you in the same you're in the judiciary, and you're in the legislature, and a part of the executive, showing that you hate the guy who's in charge when it's just all derangement. You might not like his policies, but you can't really point to anything that says that we're in some kind of crisis that we need to be acting this way. Those people should be really indicted. So I'm telling you, man, I don't listen. As a guy who worked my whole career for the Department of Defense, and as a black guy, I voted Democrat, for my whole life, just like too many stupid ass black people. And to see these guys come out and say that against us and try to sow seeds of discontent with the soldiers is outrageous. And I worked for the department. We made weapons for our soldiers to go fight and to come back alive. Nobody had any conversations about politics in those rooms where we had to approve some of those weapons for use. So I'm really pissed at these guys, man. And everybody should really be pissed at these congressmen and a senator. That's ridiculous that they did that. So I know I cursed, but that's too bad. I'm just really upset about this. And so Caroline is right on this one. For the things that she's wrong on, and maybe that's what she's going to talk about next, is one thing. But this one on this seditious behavior and trying to sow seeds of discontent with our soldiers is outrageous. And anybody who's a true American, just think about our enemies. You think the Chinese are discussing orders when they're going to be told to kill Americans? You think that their army is sitting down here saying, well, I don't know if that's a lawful one or not. And we got all these stupid guys in America sitting down here saying, well, the senator told me that maybe this is not really a lawful order, so maybe I should hesitate. It's incredible. It's just incredible, and it should not go unchecked. They should investigate these guys, and I don't care if they come up with anything that is indictable. They should indict them anyway and let them fight their way out of it. So everybody, go look up what sedition means in the dictionary. It's textbook sedition. Anyway, so that's enough of me on the jibs. I'm really pissed at that, man. That's uncalled for.
No, because Lindsey Callaghan was legally appointed, and that's the administration's position. I know there was a judge who is clearly trying to shield Letitia James and James Comey from receiving accountability, and that's why they took this unprecedented action to throw away the indictments against these two individuals. But the Department of Justice will be appealing very soon. And
listen, they could appeal all they want. Appointing that woman as the lead prosecutor was shaky at best. All the I's weren't dotted, all the T's weren't crossed, and you gave the judge a way out by the way they appointed that woman, right? And it's because they couldn't find any other prosecutors to go through the proper channels to bring down all the strings, because nobody else would indict upon demand. So it was a big mistake by the Trump administration, and his impact on, the DOJ. It's really stupid. Now, as far as it being retribution against Letitia James and Comey, listen, you throw the first blow, you should expect somebody to come after you. They prosecuted Trump for 10 years. Of course, he's going to come after some of these people, but the way they did it with this woman was stupid. Now, the judge threw those cases out, but it's without prejudice. That means they could come back again and try them. Except for Comey, the statute of limitation ran out in September. They can still get Tish James, but they got to put the right person in charge. And here's the irony of it all. They used pretty much the similar thing to get Jack Smith, his case dismissed against President Trump, because they say he was illegally put in that place. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So I hear what she's talking about, but it was sloppy. You can't be sloppy and then trying to get, you can't be sloppy. And that's what they were. They were sloppy. She's got to take a hit for this, and so does the president.
And it is our position that Lindsey Callaghan is extremely qualified for this position, but more importantly, was legally appointed to it. Steve.
Reaction to those indictments being thrown out? Is President Zelensky come to the United States this week? Are there a couple of, you mentioned on the
Yeah. So there are no plans at this
So do
moment in
I.
time. As
So
you
do
know,
I.
things can change very quickly around here, so we'll keep you all apprised, but there's no meeting scheduled right now. As for where we are, I spoke with Secretary Rubio at length. I spoke with the president as well. Everybody inside feels optimistic about what happened and transpired yesterday in Geneva. Secretary Rubio, Special Envoy Witkoff, the whole team really worked through the points of that 28-point peace plan that the United States authored with input from both sides, the Russians and the Ukrainians. And ultimately, the vast majority of these points have been agreed upon. The Ukrainians have worked on language with us together, and you heard that from their delegation directly yesterday. So we feel as though we're in a very good place. Of course, we have to make sure that all of these points are agreed to, and then of course we're going to have to make sure the other party in this war, the Russians, agree to them as well. But I think the president deserves a great deal of credit for the amount of energy and effort he's put into trying to bring these two sides to an end of this war. He wants to see this killing stop. As for any deadlines, he wants to see this end as soon as possible.
The only problem is, Caroline, is that even though we could applaud what the president's doing, he can't, and we can multitask because the government is big. I think there's a lot of people in America who can give a shit whether that war stops or not, as long as we ain't paying for it anymore directly. People are worrying about their pocketbook. People are worrying about not only that the president's got to do more than one thing at a time, but, people prioritize what's hurting them. And I don't think the Ukraine war is really at the top of people's list. And here's the last thing. Putin cannot be trusted to keep any agreements. I mean, how far do we have to go to know that the man cannot be trusted to keep agreements? And Zelensky's not much better, even though he's more in a warehouse to NATO and us than Putin is. But I mean, how many times you got to get slapped in the face by Putin? I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's admirable to keep trying, but the man cannot be trusted. He's an old belligerent oligarch, and if he doesn't get all the shit that he wants, and even when he does, that doesn't mean he's not going to go against his word. He just cannot be trusted. So that's just my opinion. I'm just some asshole in the United States looking from the outside in.
More determined to go after Tish James and James Comey?
Go ahead.
Is the president more determined to go after Tish James and James Comey?
Excuse me. I'm answering a question from
you. Looked at me. I'm sorry.
I turned and looked at you because you're yelling. I will take a question from your colleague, and then
Oh,
I'll take a
man,
question.
kick ass,
Go ahead.
Caroline, kick ass.
I don't want to detail sort of the technical talks that are happening right now, but there are just a couple, and we're confident that we'll be able to work through those. The president's been putting a lot of pressure on both leaders for this entire time. We've been talking with both sides. He's been talking to both leaders directly for 10 months now. So yes, you can expect that pressure to continue. The president wants this war to end.
Caroline, is the president more determined now, since the judge's ruling today, to go after James Comey and Tish James, and if so, why?
I wouldn't say he's going after them. I think the president is more determined than ever to see accountability in this country, yes, and to correct the wrongs of the weaponization of our justice system that we saw under the previous administration and Joe Biden.
Okay, let me stop it there. I can't stand hearing people say that Trump is weaponizing the DOJ against his enemies. You goddamn right. They persecuted this man for 10 years, man. They had every level of justice against him, trying to keep him from running for president. Do you guys remember Colorado tried to take him off the ballot unconstitutionally? They needed a Supreme Court to say, wait a minute, you can't do that shit. I mean, are you kidding me? If I was the president, I'd be coming after everybody with blood on my teeth, man. So, I mean, everybody has such a short memory. They tried to do everything. They were raiding his wife's panty drawers with shoot to kill going into Milagro, whatever the hell that place is in Florida, the Mar-a-Lago. I mean, stop it. Biden had the same, as a vice president, that asshole had the same secret documents in his house, and the prosecution said that he was too dog shit gone as an old man to prosecute. I mean, both sides of this whole thing, and just man, the only losers in this shit are American people. You know, this two-party system is if you
Venezuela? Are we entering a new phase of Venezuela, and what does that entail?
Well, as the president is so good at, I'll try to be just as good. I'm not going to broadcast any actions that may or may not be happening with respect to Venezuela. I know I've been very clear about the administration's position, as has the president and his national security team. We view the Maduro regime as being illegitimate, and the president has been very satisfied with the successful strikes against narco-terrorists and foreign terrorists that are illegally trafficking drugs towards the United States of America. He's not going to tolerate that, and you can expect to see those strikes continue.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. And that's a good thing. The drug trade has been going unchecked into the United States too much. And it's not just Venezuela. We should be able to go after the cartels in Mexico too. But of course, there's no way their president's going to let that happen. And the only question I'm never going to get answered is how come we didn't burn every poppy field in Afghanistan when we were there for the last 20 years. We should have burned down every poppy field and poisoned the land so they couldn't grow it back. And we didn't do that. So, and there was even questions, there was even thoughts, and some people say we were actually protecting the poppy fields. So, even with that, it's bullshit going on,
What was President Trump's reaction to those indictments against Comey and James being thrown out?
His reaction was, we've seen this before. We've seen partisan judges take unprecedented steps to try to intervene in accountability before, but we're not going to give up. And I know that the Department of Justice intends to appeal these rulings very soon, if they haven't already. I may have missed it.
Caroline, one question on Venezuela. Is there any plan, meeting for this week on Venezuela? And another one, a clarification on this weekend, because the president was asked about the former Brazilian president being arrested, and he mentioned that he spoke with this gentleman. Did he speak with Bolsonaro the day before he was arrested?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know if that call took place or not. It may have. I can get you a firm answer on that, Raquel. I know it's of great importance to you for your reporting. As for meetings on Venezuela, there's meetings on a range of topics inside this building all of the time. And the president is constantly apprised of what's going on in the world, what's going on in the news, and he's very well written into all of the things that his team are working on.
Please, you would not go into the sticking points of the disagreement between the two parties in the Ukraine peace process, but how flexible is the president in coming to a deal, and will the Europeans be part of a final negotiation with Zelensky?
I wanted to ask you, is it MAGA to support American workers being replaced with H-1B visa holders? Are Americans not capable of filling most of these positions?
Who supports getting American workers getting replaced?
I know the president mentioned that he wanted to bring in some workers that he could eventually send back in regards to...
The president does not support American workers being replaced. You are mischaracterizing what the president said. The president wants to see our American manufacturing industry be revitalized better than ever before. That's part of what he's doing with his effective use of tariffs and cutting good trade deals around the world. That's why he's recruited trillions and trillions of dollars in investments into our country. Those are creating good paying American jobs right here at home. As for the H-1B visa issue, the president has a very nuanced and common sense opinion on this issue. He wants to see if foreign companies are investing trillions of dollars in the United States of America and they're bringing foreign workers with them to create very niche things like batteries. He wants to see that at the beginning to get those manufacturing facilities and those factories up and running. But ultimately, the president always wants to see American workers in those jobs. And he's told these foreign companies that are investing here, you better be hiring my people if you're going to be doing business in the United States. So,
yeah, listen, Listen, it's a nuanced message. And somehow you have to dummy it down so people can understand that absolutely there's some pieces of building, putting new technology and manufacturing in any place where you have to bring in experts. That's not to say that we don't have experts here in the United States, but you got to train up your people from the United States to get those good paying jobs. And there's got to be a compromise where these companies should be allowed to bring in a certain amount of these H-1B visas in there. But we got to take the corruption out of that program, because a lot of companies are bringing people and just using them as regular low level workers where they don't need specialized training. They're just getting these people in, bringing them in and paying them the minimum they can because those people can't talk, and then they're shutting out Americans. So there's got to be some way to give confidence to the American people that only the highest upper crusty guys are coming in to be trainers for American workers, and that might take a lag time of 6 months or whatever that might be. And then you start weaning those people out and start elevating your Americans into those high positions. And you got to show to turn off the spigot where those visas are going to just the average journeyman guys from foreign countries that's leaving our average American people out, because that's going on. And you can't lie, it's not going on. It is going on. So the messaging needs to be clearer, and maybe President Trump isn't the one to give that message. He's not the most articulate one on that kind of message. Get the messaging right and put my man Miller on that shit. Right? Because when he explains stuff, almost everybody can understand it as long as he's telling the truth. Anyway, so that's what those visas. You gotta dummy it down, and you gotta be straight with the American people, and you gotta get the waste, fraud, and abuse out of the system.
There's been a lot of misunderstanding of the president's position. Michael.
Caroline, is President Trump asking for Xi Jinping's help and putting pressure on Putin to help end the war?
I won't get into the details of the conversation this morning other than what the president put out on Truth Social. He put out his own readout of that, and I will leave it to that. But I did speak with him about the call. It lasted about an hour, and it was a very positive call. The focus of the call was really Russia, Ukraine did come up, but the focus was mainly on the trade deal that we are working on with China and those relations and how they are moving in a positive direction. President also addressed our farmers, and we are pleased with what we've seen from the Chinese, and they feel the same way. And the president and President Xi discussed continuing to stay in correspondence following their very productive meeting in South Korea.
On Ukraine, does the progress that you just laid out change the Thanksgiving Day deadline for Ukraine to come to an agreement, or does the president still want something more definitive by Thursday? And then on the Comey and James case, does the president still have confidence in Lindsey Halligan?
Absolutely, he does, to your second question. As for your first question, with respect to the deadline, the president wants to see this deal come together as quickly as possible, and he trusts that his team is doing everything they can to get it over the finish line.
And the deadline is bullshit.
Does the president support Israel's elimination of Hezbollah chief of staff Ali Tabtaei yesterday? And is he in favor of Israel blocking Hezbollah from growing again?
I haven't spoken to the president about that strike specifically, but of course the president supports Israel's right to defend itself and to take out any terrorist threats in the region. Jake? I know there's been a lot of reporting on this from yourself as well, Jake, over the last few days. I will tell you that healthcare is a topic of discussion that's happening very frequently and robustly inside the West Wing right now. The president's very much involved in these talks, and he's very focused on unveiling a healthcare proposal that will fix the system and will bring down costs for consumers. As for the details of those discussions, I'll let the president speak for himself. As you all know, sometimes you report things and then President Trump comes out with an announcement, and those things are not always true from what you hear from sources inside the building. So I'll let the president speak for himself. Sure, go ahead, Kara.
President Trump said he still believes he's a fascist and a despot after they had such a great meeting.
Any comment from the White House on that?
I think talk is cheap, and I think that the president is going to judge Mamdani by his actions that he takes in New York. The meeting was positive, as you heard from the president last week, and I think the fact that the president is willing to meet with somebody who said those types of things about him shows that he really is interested in being a president for all Americans, regardless of where they live or who their leader is. He wants what's best for New York. He loves New York City. He helped build the skyline. He spent his whole life there. And so he really wants to see New York do well. And so that's how that meeting played last week. John.
That you know, got to stop it there. There's no way he should have. He didn't know. Let me be articulate. It was a good thing that he met with Mamdani. Of course. If you could meet with the guy from North Korea, you could meet with the mayor of New York City. Right? I mean, it's as simple as that. So I think that was a good meeting. Whatever they said to each other, it was only good for the meeting itself. I'll give it maybe a week before they start saying bad shit about each other again, especially Mamdani, because a lot of people were mad at him that he didn't go in there and try to punch Trump in the mouth and do something stupid. And but I'll give it a week, and we're gonna hear bullshit coming back out of New York and what he's not gonna do and all this other shit. So I take the whole meeting with a grain of salt.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. There are a few Republican senators who are critical of the 28-point peace plan, including Senator Rounds, Senator Graham, Senator McConnell. What do you say to those senators who say that this is giving too much away to Russia? And has Russia made any concessions as it relates to a possible peace deal concerning ending the war in Ukraine?
I would point any critics to the words of the Ukrainians yesterday, in which they said that they feel very positive about this plan. They've been very involved. They have had direct input on the language of this plan, and that we are in direct communication and correspondence with them. Any idea, let me just finish with this, the idea that the United States of America is not engaging with both sides equally in this war to bring it to an end is a complete and total fallacy. And I saw a lot of misinformation and rumors and allegations against people in this building, such as Secretary Rubio and Special Envoy Wynkoff and the president himself, that they are favoring one side over the other. That could not be further from the truth. I have watched as the president and his team have worked around the clock overnight with both sides on endless phone calls, endless meetings to try to bring this war to a close. And any suggestion otherwise is a complete misunderstanding of the facts. It's coming from people who have no idea what they're talking about, or people who are pushing their own agenda, or maybe people who don't want to see this war come to an end. I don't know. Maybe they're profiting off of it. Maybe they benefit from it in some way, but nobody in this building benefits from war. We want to see this war come to an end, and that's what the president and his team are proudly working to do. And I think the critics should just take a step back and think about what happened with Israel and Gaza. There were a lot of doubters, and we got the hostages out, and this president secured a peace deal that still exists and is ongoing today. So everyone should just respect the work this administration is doing and watch the process unfold. Thank you.
All right. Well, that was a short one, except for me interjecting. I think on the Russia Ukraine thing, I think Trump has been more than fair. He's taken a bunch of hits, especially with his conversations with Putin. So that's it. We'll believe it when we see it, but I don't think Putin is a trustworthy man. So I don't think we're going to be able to come out of anything that's going to satisfy that guy. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, everyone. And until the next one, I'll see you then.